Welcome, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first two cards in our 5-card spread? First two cards we are starting our day off with today are the Eight of Wands in its reversal, in combination with our Two of Wands in its reversal. You may be feeling, I'm going to describe something that we're seeing right now. One of the things, I'm going to walk you guys again through what we've been experiencing in the cards over the last, well, not necessarily in the cards over the last few days, but what we've been experiencing energetically and astrologically to give you some context as to any of the jitters that you may be feeling today, or anything here that may be feeling more energetically triggering. Because effectively what we experienced during that very rough eclipse process that we went through, okay, was the fact that we had Mercury and Venus that were stationed in Aries. Now, during that eclipse process, you'll remember there was a lot of that energy that moved back into Pisces. Now, this is difficult because I need to point out Pisces to Aries transiting is not for the weak. It's not for the faint, because it has to do with the ability to navigate through the emotions, right? It's moving the emotions into a space that they feel like they're energetically practical. So I just want to explain to you how this energy right now can feel a little confusing as it relates to working through this space of sentimentality, right? Because we had a lot of energy that was in that space of feeling activated, feeling motivated, feeling triggered in Aries. And then we pulled back into Pisces during the retrograde cycle, during eclipses. So feeling a lot of that sentimentality coming in, a lot of that space of the memory. Because you'll remember, as I mentioned, the thing about the Neptune energy is Neptune is our memory bank. It's the place where we hold our memories. It's a lot of that, like I like to describe it like Neptune is like the Wayback Machine, right? So the ability to feel that space and to feel a lot of that energy push forward to a certain extent. And at the same time, we had Mercury and Venus pulling back around it. And that's why I was describing it almost like a K-turn, because it's like the planets were like doing a K-turn, because we saw the energy that was ahead of Neptune, like it almost moved behind Neptune. And then we had that beautiful Libra full moon that arises that allows for a point of contemplation, the ability to see something from a perspective that you couldn't see it before, right? It's a little bit of that, I want to describe it. It's like a little bit of that aha energy. It's a little bit of that moment that we have that we suddenly like land upon an observation of something from a perspective that we can't see. And this is how Saturn is helping a lot of that, because now Saturn is also moving closer to Aries, right? So it's like, I like to describe this to a certain extent as like Mercury and Venus are standing back and they're looking at Neptune. They're looking at memory, and they've got Saturn that's coming in, like Saturn that's coming in and like putting their arms on the shoulder of each and saying like, it's beautiful, isn't it? Right? Like that ability of being able to appreciate something in the context of seeing something in a wider way, right? But there's also, I want to say this as well, it's not that everything is energetically beautiful, because in the same space of that, I also see, and I need to point this out, that this Venus in retrograde identifies and recognizes what it is that we're working on in the self, right? It's the ability to see something in a way that you couldn't see it before. That's why some of that retrograde energy felt like it was so rough or so rocky, because that ability of being able to kind of step back from the self, when we don't take things personally, we're able to see with energetic clarity. So that same feeling, and I kind of want to describe it right now, it's not disassociative. It feels like it's it feels like it's energetically lucid. It feels like it's energetically profound. I keep on saying I would not be surprised right now if you're having those moments of clarity, right? Seeing through the emotions and more into the heart of something and being able to understand, right? A lot of I keep on saying understanding the weight of sentiment, right? But not confusing sentiment with energetic intention. Now, this is having a big impact depending on where you are. And this is why this is so important, because now what do we see that's happening right now? Mercury and Venus are going to be moving back in front of, they're moving back in front of Neptune, right? So there's like, it's almost like the Libra full moon was like a pause point of contemplation. And now we've got a lot of that work moving back into direct action. For masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, this is why so many of these new energetic connections that are coming together right now during this period, they feel like they're bittersweet, right? They feel, I keep on hearing there's something about the beautiful work as it relates to observing the gift in another of self-correction, right? Because when we're able to correct for the self, we're able to identify and recognize. It's like working through the awareness to a certain extent. What's beautiful about a lot of these energetic connections is it's not that they're perfect, right? There's a lot of that space that I'm seeing that is requiring, it's requiring patience. It's requiring, I keep on seeing, trepidation. But that same trepidation is the difference between, it's not hesitation, it's trepidation, because there's a certain weight of conscientiousness that energy is recognizing in one another, right? These are very courteous connections that I see that are forming at this time. And a reason that the energetic connections right now that are forming that are courteous has to do with the weight or the valuation of identifying. I keep on seeing exquisite insistence. Remember, we talked a lot about exquisite insistence for energy deep within divine union. You'll remember that these messages move back and forth in the frequencies. So feeling the energetic relief of determined, consistent energy is what is creating a lot of that energetic sustainability in some of these connections right now. But at the moment that energy feels the relief of something that is energetically consistent, it starts to heal anything from the past that was not consistent. Because often, and that's what's so difficult about inconsistent relationships, is when energy is in a space of being energetically inconsistent, it's hard to put one's finger upon what's wrong, right? It's hard to focus. It's hard to say something is wrong that's not there. But it's only, and this is why Jupiter and Gemini is helping with that. It's in the moment that you feel the consistency, you feel the intrinsic nature of something that's energetically consistent that allows you to define and recognize what was energetically missing from a past relationship or a past connection. So that's why I keep on seeing that there's a lot of frustration that may be expressed and communicated right now in some of these connections. But even in the space of being able to articulate upon frustrations and having another person not move away from you, right, but almost embrace you in that space, it's healing, because this is the energy that is feeling the degree or space of being able to be authentic in the embrace of a relationship that is not built upon inspiration. Now, what is the difficulty point that we see with energetic connections that are inspirational based? Inspirational relationships are such that there's no consistency. They're based more upon another's whims. They're based more upon another's inclinations. Sometimes they feel like ideal, but it's not that they're ideal because we don't build towards ideal. It's not trying to find energetic perfection. And this is why so much of that last full moon cycle, working through the Virgo full moon, identifying and recognizing the difference, that the perfect that is made versus the perfect that is found, that identification point as it relates to, I keep on seeing relationships that feel like they were reaching to a point of stagnancy because another person was insisting that the reason that they weren't ready to continue forward was because of a lack of perfection, right? That's often coming into that space of convenience, because it's always convenient. It's very easy to always say that you're not finding perfect, because we've talked about here the fact that perfect cannot be found. Perfect is not something we find. It's something that we make. It's always a little bit out of our reach. And that's why, again, energy that says the reason that they're not moving towards something is because something's not perfect. I keep on seeing that the reason that these are chariot lessons is their conversations in what it takes to build perfect, right? And often the irony of that, and this is where Saturn's coming in, the irony is, in order to build perfect, you have to be able to navigate imperfection. You have to be able to walk through those spaces or places of understanding the sense of trying to like work in the context of doing something in such a way that you work towards making it better than you find it. And so everything I keep on seeing here is like, that's why I keep on getting like, there's a lot of energetic grit that energy is identifying and recognizing as it relates to these counterpart connections that are forming right now. Because this is the energy that is seeing the difference between the energy of like that often articulates upon being problem focused, always articulating upon the reasons why they're not doing something, versus the energy that always moves something in the direction to try to make something energetically better. Now, continuing to get clarification on this, for a lot of the energy moving into divine union, right? I keep on hearing that's the energy that says when we work on the self, it's not pretty, but it's the ground from which we build, right? This is a lot of the energy that is finding that ability of accommodation for the self, recognizing and identifying what it is that they're working on as it relates to the aspiration that they're building towards with counterpart. Now, for a lot of the energy doing that work right now, it's like I keep on seeing it's energy coming into divine union and going straight into hermit mode to a certain extent. And why is the energy moving into hermit mode? Because for a lot of the energy working in that space right now, the ability to feel the stabilization point of counterpart connection to such an extent that it frees you up, right? It gives you your time back. I feel like there's energy right now coming into divine union that's saying to one another, the gift you give me is profound, because the gift you give me is not having to focus on worrying about energetic partnership. When we build into a space of consistency and energetic reliability and partnership, that is the ship through which we can move. And that's the energy that says, I don't need you, but you are the foundation, because it is the ground that we create in our own consistency that allows each other to flourish and to thrive. It's the dependability and the reliability. So it's interesting because I keep on seeing for energy right now, coming into divine union, this is energy that, as I mentioned, is moving out of chariot into hermit, right? And so, but the hermit, and you have to see this, and we talk a lot about this in my hermit class, is hermit energy is often misinterpreted as isolation. There's nothing isolated about the hermit card. The ability to move into the energy that we see in the hermit is the solace of being able to feel the freedom of exploring the internal journey, and that often is articulated upon building into the space of energetic safety that we feel outside of the self, that allows for that place of internal contemplation, right? And so that's why I see that a lot of this energy is saying to one another, thank you. Because what they feel like, the other energy is saying, I'm not giving you anything. The energy is actually saying to one another, yes, you are. You're giving me hermit energy. You're giving me hermit energy. You're giving me the ability to move inwards without the contemplation or the over concentration on what's happening outside the self. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, this is what I'm seeing that is happening right now, specifically and particularly in the realm of being able to, and I keep on seeing that there's something about, like, there are conversations and things of that nature happening right now deep within divine union. And I just keep on getting the same message that's coming through, which is the conversation between, again, exquisite insistence and stubbornness, right? Like, and it's funny too, because it feels like it's very heavy in Gemini and Taurus energy. Because the thing is, and I need to point out, when someone is exquisitely insisting upon something, it looks very similar. It looks very similar to stubbornness, right? It looks very, when we insist upon something that's important, it can look very much like stubbornness. But the way we're able to identify the difference between something that feels like it's a call from our higher self versus the ego is the difference between I don't wanna and let me explain. Okay, like, because the ego, when the ego is being stubborn about something and you try to communicate upon it, right? It goes, I don't want to. It's like, it puts its hands on its hips. And it goes, you want to explain? And the ego goes, no. Like, I don't want to, like. But when the higher self is insisting upon something, what does the higher self say? Take a seat. How much time you got? Let me explain. Let me walk you through this. I'll go slow. What speed do you need me to work you through this? We'll go through this. Like, it's a conversation. We're going to go through this one more time. Like, one more time. All right, let's try this again, right? It's a lot of that. Like, it's trying to walk someone through something. Now, continuing to get clarification, and that's why, and the reason I'm laughing through that is because I'm reading into the energy within divine union, because it's like, often when you're working through something that's energetically frustrating, and it's like the space that, like, logic is trying to come up against, like, stubbornness, like, you have to laugh because you're like, like, it's just, it's like helping someone understand and come around to something. It's like, I feel like it's a lot of this, like, let me walk you through it one more time. Continuing to get clarification between our fourth and fifth cards in our spread before we start getting clarification right now. Yeah, it's our three of swords in its reversal, and it's with the 7 of pentacles in its reversal. So it's the reason I'm laughing about it is because I'm getting some kind of vision right now for working through situations within divine union. And I just see someone being like, okay, I'm going to walk you through this. Okay. And someone being like, yeah. I'm like, okay, this, got it. Great. This, got it. Okay. This, got it. Okay, good. You with me? No. Okay. Like, you know what I mean? I remember when I told you about disassembling, trying to help someone understand something, trying to help someone work through an energetic lesson. It's the energetic patience of working through and identifying, looking towards where your I keep on hearing working in the space of trying to identify where you're losing someone is what I'm getting. I know there's no word for it. Like, it's working, like, why don't we have a word for that? It's working through the space, trying to figure out the moment that you've lost someone in a conversation. Why don't we need a word for that? Why don't we have a word for that? That is the energetic feeling that is almost like creating a little bit of that energetic laughter point, because it's like it's working through the context of trying to work through something with someone that is invested in understanding it. But then it's like it's like it's like nope, one more time, you know what I mean? So it's a lot like that. Um, Continuing to get clarification for energy coming into divine union. I just keep on seeing that for a lot of this energy coming into divine union, this is the energy that is fixing that in them. Like, I know it sounds a little odd, but they're fixing that in themselves, right? I told you there's a lot of energy coming into divine union right now that's understanding the assignment of the self, and that's always, like it's. I keep on seeing, and I keep on getting a message right now for energy coming into divine union, that identifying an energetic problem does not immediately mean that there's a solution for it, right? Like, that's, again, there should be a word for that, but it's working in the context of understanding that recognizing what, like recognizing a blockage in the self is half the work, right? It's not like it's being able to identify and articulate upon something doesn't allow, I keep on saying, like, it doesn't allow the ability to understand how to work through it. That's only the first part of the assignment. So I just keep on seeing that, like, it feels like, that's why I almost feel like there's a lot of energy right now coming into divine union that's moving into hermit mode, because they've seen something in the past that's given them insight upon the person of the self that they couldn't see before. But it's like seeing something and being able to understand how to work through it. Those are different things. Now for masculine, and that's interesting, because you'll remember, it's like, remember how we talked about a little bit of that, like, this is a lot of that same, all the work that we saw the energy doing in separation is now moving into the energy coming into divine union. Now for energy and separation, clarification right now between our Eight of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Two of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Ten of Pentacles in its upright. I keep on seeing that there's something really important that's happening right now for energy in separation, because and it has to do with manifestation goals, and we talk a lot about this here. The difference between energetically wishing for things, right? Manifestations are not wishes, because manifestations are wishes in action, right? We don't just hope for things. We walk towards a manifestation, right? We adjust and accommodate and recognize what it is that we are working upon on the self to be able to build into something. And we talk a lot about this here, that, it's not just about the process of wanting something. It's the question of recognizing and saying to the universe, this is what I'm adjusting within myself to move towards that direction, right? That's why we have to look at it like a good manifestation should feel like a parade, right? Every step feels like a celebration point as we move towards it. And that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy right now that is working on that sense of self, it's recognizing that something isn't perfect, but being able to see the ground through which something can build into becoming perfect, right? And that's not easy, because I keep on seeing that there's something about that. There's something about, and I need to point this out, sometimes we experience that as it relates to a manifestation. And we talk a lot about that in the space of a manifestation being almost like a conversation with the universe, which is working through the context of like what we want versus what it is that we truly need, right? And I keep on seeing that a lot of that energy right now in separation is working through the juxtaposition point of potentially recognizing experiences in the past where they were holding on to something because it looked like their manifestation goal, but they're asking the important question, which is, did it ever feel like the manifestation goal? Because often what we have to, one of the big mistakes that we often make when we're trying to move towards manifestations is we focus too much on what it looks like, and we don't pay enough concentration into what it feels like. You have to remember the universe works on energy, right? So it's like if you're trying to say that you're trying to move towards happiness, but you're moving towards an energy that's constantly making you feel a point of lack, the universe says that's a confused manifestation, right? Because you're saying that you want one thing, but you're moving in the direction of something that feels very different to it. So that ability of recognizing and identifying and seeing within the self how we might sometimes stand in the way of our manifestation goals. It's working not based upon what we see, but rather upon what we feel. So the ability to move towards the energetic feeling of a manifestation allows for a lot of that determination. And what I keep on seeing that's happening right now for a lot of the energy in separation is moving towards something and feeling into it. Welcome to the pink moon. Like welcome to the pink moon in Libra, right? Because when we feel into something, right, we allow ourselves to say, does this feel right? Does this feel like my manifestation, right? Like that familiarity. And this is why we talk a lot about writing through manifestations, because when we write it through, we generate the energetic feeling so that we can recognize it. So I see a lot of the energy doing that work, identifying and recognizing what that determination point is. This is the energy that is working through potentially building into something that feels correct. And in the moment that they understand and identify the fact that something feels right, they're starting to identify what they may have moved towards that never felt the way that they expected it to feel. We work towards the energetic feeling and we recognize what doesn't feel that way. But that's why I keep on seeing for a lot of the energy right now, Two of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Emperor card in this reversal. This is a lot of a conversation of how we often stand in our own way. Card to clarify. What do we have here? Our Justice card. Thank you, Libra full moon, right? Because when we go in those situations or circumstances that we say, I want this, but then we move in a direction of something that doesn't feel like the thing that we want, the universe just sits there and scratches their head and goes, that's a confused message. That's a confused energetic message. That doesn't make any sense. They're saying one thing and they're doing another. What do we do when we're working on healing? Our words that match our actions, right? Working in the context of recognizing and identifying and making sure that we move in accordance to our manifestation goals. So I keep on seeing that there's a lot of this energy right now. And this is a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union. And this is why the energy says to one another as they come into divine union, I can never articulate my abundant appreciation to you, right? And why does this energy say this? When the energy says, I'm not doing anything, and the energy goes, exactly. They're like, right? Exactly. Because when we are each other's peace, and another energy says, I cannot thank you for what you give me, and the other person says, I'm not doing anything, and the other energy goes, thank you, it's because it is the peace that we find within ourselves that becomes the ground of the healthy relationship. Right? It is the fertile soil from which we can contemplate upon ourselves. And that's why we often come into that place of appreciation when we're not necessarily doing anything, because when we've worked in terms of coming into the space of our own peace, that is the peace that we bring with us as we go. So I just keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy, like in that space, I see a lot of that energy is always like, thank you for what? Nothing. Exactly. Exactly. because it's the allowance point of being able to move into hermit energy. For a lot of this energy right now, deep within divine union, I keep on seeing this energy. And this is why I just keep on seeing this energy, like letting go of some frustration right now. Because for a lot of the energy right now, like letting go of frustration, it feels like a little bit of a headbanging moment because it's like you're working through something. You're like piece by piece by piece. Okay, so this, yes. So this, yes. So this. And then this, what? Let's go back. Okay. You know what I mean? Like it's working through something to a certain extent and trying to recognize like where you're losing someone in the context of energetic logic, because it's often in those moments that you're able to identify and recognize what is the point. I keep on seeing like identifying the difference between like it's I keep on seeing like stubbornness. Like, well, there's the problem. I've identified where it is. This is okay. We've pinpointed where the issue is, right? It's like it's working on that to a certain extent, but also like speaking towards it in such a way that it feels like identifying what the energetic hurdle is its own breakthrough, right? Because it's like oh there okay, that's there it is. Okay, that is what like that's what needs to be energetically addressed, right? So it's continuing to get clarification between our Emperor card in its reversal in combination with our Three of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Page of Cups energy in its reversal. And it's giving me like, the thing about it too is, it's like, I feel like there's a lot of energy right now that is, like working through, the context of being able to recognize and identify, like working through the frustration in such a way that you're able to identify and recognize like what those energetic hurdles are. It's building into the context of finding new energetic solutions. It's working in the space. And this is what beautiful counterpart energy is able to do, is everything I keep on seeing that's occurring there is allowing for that pathwork of adaptability, because when we're able to articulate to one another what the energetic hurdles that we experience or recognize in others are, it creates that, I keep on saying, it creates that it creates that conversation. And this is why I keep on seeing that it's a lot of work in Taurus and Gemini, because it's working through an obstacle of the self and then speaking to counterpart and saying to a certain extent, is this something that I need to change within the self? Or is this something that I'm energetically experiencing, right? So there's a lot of that. I keep on seeing like there's a lot of that force of dialogue that's occurring there that is allowing for, I keep on seeing, new ideas, new energetic breakthroughs. Now for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, there's something really vital and important that's occurring right now for energy coming into divine union, and it has to do specifically and particularly with that modality of working on the context of what it is. Like this is almost the energy that is now going into some period of contemplation. There's a lot of this introspection here, but it feels like it is positive introspection, because I keep on seeing that a lot of this energy has to do in relationality to setting intention, working through something, having breakthroughs of the self, perceiving things in ways that you couldn't before, that allows for that extension, like the possibility of adapting to the higher sense of standards that you're setting yourself upon. Now, for masculine and feminine energy, again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to, in separation, clarity between our Three of Swords in its reversal, in combination with our Eight of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify. We've got here our Knight of Pentacles in its upright. And this is this is what I keep on seeing right now in relationality to the breakthroughs that are occurring right now for a lot of the energy in separation that are building into new energetic connections. Because I keep on seeing you can't fake effort is what I keep on hearing. Like, you can't fake effort. Like, there's something really important about that ability of working into the context of adaptability, working into the context of energetic progress. I keep on hearing that there's a recognition point that some of this energy is seeing as it relates to counterpart, and the ability to effectively make those adjustments, make those accommodations. This is why I keep on seeing that if these are locationalities or experiences where there is, like, there's energy here that's learning that it's safe to be frustrated again. Is what I keep on getting for a lot of the energy in separation. And why is the energy saying that they're learning that it's safe to be frustrated again? Because often when we're in relationships that feel like they are performative, right, that feel like we can't be our authentic self, it doesn't often feel like there's a space to be able to air our energetic frustrations, right? Because that's what we talked about as it relates to the difference between an inspirational relationship as opposed to an aspirational relationship. Because when we're in the context of an inspirational relationship and we try to air our frustration, right? What is someone who's coming towards us from a space of whim say? That's not very dream of you, right? And that's the energy that moves away, right? But the authentic relationships, the relationships that are building together, it's not a gripe free place. Like, I keep on seeing, it's like you're griping, like the ability to gripe, because when we gripe, we're able to build upon, and we talked about this, the sacred breath of union, right? And what is the sacred breath of union? It is working through something that is a challenge and then having it met by the respiring breath of progress. And so that's why I keep on hearing that there's a lot of this energy right now that is feeling that they're feeling the warp and weft of healthy progress that is often indicative of being able to express a frustration and have it met and calibrated with something that accommodates for it, right? It doesn't require one to remain silent. It allows for that place of productivity and adaptability. Continuing to get clarification here between our 10 of Pentacles in its upright in combination with our Justice card in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Woo, two cards coming out to clarify right now. We've got here our Empress card in its reversal in combination with our Six of Wands in its reversal. So there's something very, I keep on seeing for energy right now that is coming into divine union. And this has to do, I got a point, I just want to stress this right now, okay? We're still coming out of this eclipse cycle, okay? We're still coming out of this eclipse cycle. I know it's over, but like, we're coming out of the doldrums of it. I told you, like, this is why we talk about, like, this is why we say like shadow periods and things like that, because these things don't have an on and off switch. Okay, like they move in and out, right? They come in and out. And so I want you to kind of remember that to a certain extent today. And this is happening across all the frequencies because, you know, Venus has gone direct, but we're still coming out of that shadow period. So there's still a lot of this tenderness here, particularly as it relates to, and I got to tell you, and this is why I was telling you guys during that eclipse cycle not to take things personally, to be intentional as it relates to articulating through vulnerability, because the ability to communicate upon how like something that upset like bothers us, but in a way that we bring our own prescription, right? It helps us identify. I keep on saying, and I need to point this out. When something bothers us, but there isn't necessarily something another can do to fix it, we keep on seeing like that's usually an indication that it's something that bothers us from an egoic space, right? Like that's something that we have to do work on the inside. But the ability, and that's why we talk a lot about the fact that one of the steps that we do in healing is we identify when we feel vulnerable to see if we can find our prescription for it. Because that's the ability of, instead of saying to another person something like, you hurt me, you say, this bothered me. This is something that I think we can work towards that would make that better going forward, right? Not allowing the emotions to feel like a logic problem that is bent for another to solve, right? Because often when we communicate emotions, but we don't indicate what can be done to resolve them, then what we're really like, it almost feels like our love becomes a burden, because we say my like the love is complicated and I can't figure out the answer to it. And the only way that you can come towards me is if you figure it out. Like, and like, like that is why we express, and this is what we talk about in the realm of honoring our feelings, means we understand the assignments that we give to each other in the context of love, right? And that's why I keep on seeing that there's something about the reliability. There's something about that constancy that is occurring right now across all of the energy that is moving into union, that says to one another, and this is what feels like the modality of relief: recognize, I honor you by assuring you that I never bring forth something to you because I haven't understood it within the self. That the work that we do in honoring our feelings is recognize, and especially in the space of hurt feelings, the feelings that are hurt, because it's more coming from the space of our ego. And sometimes we can figure that out, being like, there's nothing that person could have done. It just bothers me, right? That's like that messiness that we have, that we recognize as it relates to the space of our own existence, right? Something that becomes an internal assignment, something that we need to work on within the self. And that's the lamp that we shine on ourselves in that moment when we contemplate upon the things that bother us, versus those moments to say, the reason that this energetically bothered me is because this is what I think would have been more energetically productive, right? Being able to say to another, giving another the benefit of the doubt by saying, this is what I think would help to alleviate that, so that I don't necessarily feel like that going forward, right? Not creating the space of our emotions that create like that like horrific puzzle box for another person to have to try to solve to be able to love us, but being able to solve our own puzzle boxes to a certain extent. That is the gift of sustainability and balance that we provide each other in the context of healthy relationship, because that is the energy that says, rest assured, I don't just express the feelings as mood swings, how I'm feeling temperamentally. I do the work to resolve the energetic request of the emotion, to address to you what the emotion is asking for. And that's happening across all of the frequencies. Continuing to get clarification between our Justice card in its upright in combination with our Page of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Four of Pentacles in its reversal. And so there's something really beautiful about that, because I keep on seeing that. And this has to do, and this is the thing about it right now, man, and like, and the thing about it is, and this is what I'm seeing with like Mercury, like I just want to describe this, like everything I'm seeing here, which is like, and this is like there's a lot of frustration that's getting released. There's a lot of frustration that's getting released right now as it relates to Mercury and Venus, like moving back into Aries, because it's like I keep on seeing there are circumstances or situations where there's been like a lot like, and I keep on seeing this like that K turn around Neptune, which is being able to recognize and identify what an energetic hurdle is. It doesn't remove the hurdle. It doesn't remove the hurdle. It doesn't remove the hurdle, but it does give you like a perspective in relationality to how I keep on seeing, and this is what I keep on seeing right now that's happening across all of the frequencies. And this is why I kept on getting the message of extending an olive branch but not cutting down a tree, which is when you navigate through something that isn't energetically ideal, you do so with courtesy to understand if it's something that you can work through or you have to work around, right? Like that's the thing about it, and it has a lot to do particularly in the space of Neptune and the relationality to feelings. Now this is what is so beautiful about the Neptune energy, right? The Neptune energy is one, and a lot of these lessons that we see that have been coming through, especially Neptune transiting out of Pisces into Aries, has to do in the realm of energetic feeling, being able to articulate, being able to recognize the what we hold on to, and we understand and identify that when we're working through something, because it has energetic meaning to us, we're able to express the importance of it, right? Like it feels like that heart opening. It feels like that ability to allow for some context of healing. But what happens when we become stubborn, right? What happens when we become energetically rigid? What happens when we feel like we're only serving the self, when we hold on to things? We don't want to talk about them. We become energetically resistant. We almost calcify, right? Like we become very like, why? Because, like, you know what I mean? Like you become a stick in the mud. Like the difference between an olive, I keep on getting the difference between an olive branch and a stick in the mud has to do with the idea of being able to plant something, like putting an intention into the ground through which you can grow, versus being energetically resistant on something for no apparent reason because it feels good to do so. Okay. Like, and so I keep on seeing that that's happening across all the frequencies, which is having to allow, like having to allow for that space of moving towards appreciating how much one has changed, right? Allowing for that context. And that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy right now, clarity between our Page of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Knight of Pentacles in its upright. It's not about perfect. Because the irony is, and this is what Saturn is teaching us as it moves closer to Aries and Venus, the only way you can build perfection is by accommodating for exquisiteness. It's for accommodating for energetic uniqueness. When you demand perfection, you will find perfection nowhere. But when you are adaptable, when you are expansive, when you see the possibilities and you don't meet the day from the perspective of what you expect, but rather meet the day with saying, how can I arrive to this moment and make it energetically better, then perfect begins to blossom all around you because you're working towards the service of energetic perfection. Continuing to get clarification between our Page of Cups and in combination with that Knight of Pentacles energy, we have two cards coming out. Yeah, Page of Swords with the King of Cups, right? It's not about finding perfect. It's about making perfect. And the exquisite, I keep on seeing, the exquisite irony that we often receive is that space of making something energetically perfect isn't one about seeking, it's one about arriving, right? It's not about moving away from something with displeasure and going, this isn't perfect. It's looking at something and saying, how can I make the energetic best of it? What can I bring forth to make something beautiful? And that's what a bit of the gift is with that Venus in retrograde. Like again, and this is why I tell you guys the retrograde cycles are not here to just screw up our day. Like they're here to help us understand, right? Mercury retrograde doesn't take the routine away because it doesn't like you. The Mercury retrograde takes the routine away to say, is that serving you or are you becoming dependent on it, right? Helping you innovate. The Venus retrogrades do not take beauty away to say, look how ugly you are. The Venus retrograde takes beauty away to say, beauty is all around you. It's your call. It's your task to create it, not to find it. Right? So everything about this, like it's a lot of that. I told you it's about Renaissance energy, and it's not working in the space of finding ideal. It's arriving into a space and making it ideal. It is working with what one finds. It is trying to do something and moving it in the direction that you feel like it energetically helps. And that's what I keep on seeing that's happening right now for a lot of the energy in separation, having to heal from those circumstances or situations where someone was always playing keep away with their affections. Someone always saying, I'm not going to show up for you because you're not perfect yet. Realizing the falsehood of a narrative like that perfection is not something that is found. It's something that we're constantly arriving to. This is why I see so much of that energy, like working in separation. And in that moment, it's like in the moment that they receive the ability to be in their authenticity, it's like a lot of that, it's a lot of that energetic release, because it is the energy that is forgiving themselves for trying to feeling that they're less under another person's impossible energetic standards. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into, and this is why we work on it, and this is why I see some energy right now coming into divine union that's potentially healing them from themselves, particularly and especially, this could even be some energy coming into divine union that recognizes that their own desire for perfection in the past was their blockage point, that their own inability to work upon the self, that the journey of perfection is an internal journey, not an external one. I keep on hearing that there's a lot of this energy right now that is saying to counterpart that the beauty that we create is in the space that we're always able to change. We're always able to adapt. And this isn't the energy that doesn't hold one another to a standard, but this is the energy that loves one another because they love one another from the place of who they are and who they aspire to become. And when we build into the context of seeing each other clearly, when we talk about our dreams, when we talk about our manifestations, that's not building into another person's potential. That's loving someone both in the condition you find them and the aspiration that they hold themselves to. Not potential, aspiration. Continuing to get clarification between our Seven of Wands in combination with our Empress card, in combination with our Four of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify. Two of Pentacles. There's that Jupiter. There's that Jupiter in Gemini that keeps on challenging us and saying, pay attention to the difference, right? Things that are very oppositional sometimes look very similar. That's the hurdle, right? Being extremely stubborn from a place of the ego can often look very similar to someone who's holding on to something because it's energetically vital and important. The difference that you can always tell exists in the ability to identify the reasons why. Because when we're in a space and we're holding on to something and we don't want to talk about it, it's because it feels indulgent to the ego. It's because the ego, that's usually we got to catch ourselves, be like, wait a minute. Like, what is that? Those are those moments that we have to say, wait, right? Because that moment of identifying, saying that there's a blind spot right there. Like there's something that might need to be an internal note. And that's why we don't shy away from a difficult conversation, and we don't get defensive through it. We get observational. We recognize our own energetic triggers, and that's not to say that there aren't things that we hold on to, because they're important. But we identify the reason why we're holding on to something, the difference between something that we hold on to because it helps us see our higher self, because it is exquisite, it is intrinsically important, versus something that comes more from the ego that we hold on to because it feels indulgent, and no, we don't want to talk about it, and no, it's none of your business, and no, I'm not inclined to explain why. Right? Notice the defense. Oh, is that the defense system coming on? Yeah, there it is. There's the defense. Yeah. Oh, you're telling me the shield doesn't want to talk about why it's a shield? That makes sense, right? So we do that work, and it's not, again, it's not about surrendering either, right? We need a healthy energetic shield. The ego is there to protect us, right? The ego is there to try to look out for us. But sometimes when we're not keeping our ego in check, our egoic shield gets too big, and it blocks us from being able to see things, because when a shield's too big, you can't see around it. And the higher self, again, we move towards perfection towards it, but we don't bludgeon ourselves with it. We appreciate how far we've come, and we don't struggle. We don't build into the context of beating ourselves up because we're not perfect. We recognize that perfection is always out of reach because it is a cardinal direction. It's not a destination. We chart our progress towards that energetic desire. Continuing to get clarification, and that's happening across all the frequencies. And again, I feel like a lot of this right now, there's working through a lot of frustration right now between the difference between energy that demands perfect versus energy that makes perfect. Clarification between our Four of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with our Page of Swords and our King of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Fool card in its reversal, right? The space of identifying, and this is the heart. This is why we have to heal our hearts. This is why it's so fundamentally important, because when we work in the space of demanding perfection, all we see is ugliness outside the self. All we see is ugliness around the self. When we move too much in that space of demanding perfection of ourselves, then everything feels like it's failing. There's no worse place to be than having the unresolved relationship with the need to move towards the higher self to such an extent that you feel like you're being bludgeoned by it. You feel like you're always failing in that endeavor. But when we operate in the context of love, when we appreciate the desire to do something better and we allow for that adaptability, then that is the ground from which we can build. That is the ground from which we can create. That is where the love comes in, right? It's the ability to look at something that isn't perfect and say to the self, how can I improve upon this? How can I make it better? Because in that moment that we make something energetically better, taking something broken or something that we see that isn't perfect and starting to do that work of repair, it becomes exquisite. It becomes unique. It becomes solely our own. And that sense of perfection is something that we create every day. And it's not one of revulsion. It's not one of pulling away. It's not one of distaste. It's one of building into the embrace of what it takes to create something that is precious, because you identify and recognize the aspiration of what it is that you find there. And that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy right now that is coming into partnership, this is why it's chariot energy. Because this is the energy that feels those moments of faltering. But in that moment of faltering, they don't see someone pulling away in revulsion and distaste. They see that adaptability. They see that accommodation point. They see that moment of someone saying, it's okay. And in that moment that it's okay, then anything becomes possible, because they feel the ability of being their authentic self. And nothing says, I love you more than the language that says, I love you, and it's okay to make a mistake. because it allows for that adaptability of doing something in a better way. It's not about being perfect. It's about striving for perfection. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is the energy that like wants to fall to the floor weeping to each other and saying, thank you, thank you. And the energy saying back to each other, I'm not doing anything. And the energy saying, you're doing more than you'll ever understand. Because when we find that peace within ourselves, when we find that that reliability, when we find the ability to be energetically consistent within ourselves, there is no higher gift that we give counterpart, because that is the energy that says, I know that I can rely on you, that does not require a place of perfection, but the constancy of oneself is such that I always know what I can expect to find there. That is the most profound gift, because that is the certainty of the self that we create, that allows the energy of love to feel strong in our embrace, because it allows for the space of the energy moving into hermit energy, which allows that's the energy that says, I don't rely on you. I don't need you. You are the ground. You create. You create the plane from which the ability for me to stand allows me to explore the self, because I don't need to worry about where I am with you, because I know you're always there. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union, this is what we see that's happening right now as it relates to working through spaces and places of navigating through patience, working through, I keep on seeing the difficulty and difference between, I keep on hearing the difference between a stubborn conversation and a productive conversation. And what is the difference between a stubborn conversation and a productive conversation? Progress. We're getting somewhere. Like we're getting somewhere. Because what happens, right? Like what happens when someone's being energetically stubborn? Like the difference between obtuseness and the ability to effectively work through something is often that space of, like, I keep on seeing there's a lot of patience that is being brought to something to a certain extent, specifically and particularly because this is the energy that speaks to one another and says, is this something that I have to work on the inside, or is this something that I'm working on the outside? Right? Like, this is how we check each other, right? Because especially with a lot of the energy deep within divine union, being able to have those conversations, it's like that's like it's the ability to air the grievance, to recognize if the work needs to happen within the self or outside of the self, right? Continuing, final card in today's spread between our Two of Pentacles in its upright and our Fool card in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now. There's that there's that nine of swords energy, right? And I got to tell you, and the thing about it has to do with the fact that Saturn is up next to Mercury and Venus. And the thing with Saturn is Saturn often has to be in the space of irony. Okay, like Saturn often has to work in the context of irony. And what is irony? Irony is working through situations or circumstances. And that's why I keep on laughing, because when you're working through energetic irony, and that's why that's why these messages are coming through, which is, again, energy that demands perfection never finds perfection. Energy that is always adaptable finds perfection everywhere and feels like they're falling short of it, because it's not who we are, it's how we arrive, right? It's not the conversation of, do you know who I am? It's how can I help, right? It's the ability of working in the context that we're doing things together. And it's that act of, like, I keep on seeing, like, that work of working through, I keep on saying working through hard feelings is such that, and I keep on seeing hard feelings forge us, not because we hold on to them, because when you hold on to hard feelings for no reason, you become bitter. You become a bitter mess. Okay? You become like holding on to hard feelings without a reason will turn you into a bitter mess. But holding on to a hard feeling because it has meaning allows you to explain why it's so significant. It becomes everything, right? It's what drives us forward. And the irony, the reason I'm seeing that is often they look very similar, but they're very different because one holds everything within it and the other holds nothing, right? And so I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy right now, the irony of that, like there's something about that that's occurring for energy and separation. There's almost like a bit of understanding that often when we're working towards a healthy manifestation, we encounter our own irony. But that's why it's like we understand and are fortified by it because it feels like it reveals something to the self in the process. Bottom of the deck on this reading is our Six of Swords in its reversal. A lot of this, like here right now, like I feel like a lot of this energy, I already see it, and it has to do with the fact that Saturn's moving out of Pisces into Aries, which is working on this space of letting go of regret. And that's the thing, like that's the thing about it, like working through the space of regret. I want you to understand that regret, and I know this sounds hard when we're working through it, regret is a gift to a certain extent because, when we see something, when we see something, there's some things we can only see in our past because, and that's the thing, when you have regret for something, it's usually indicative of the fact that you're no longer the person that would make that choice, right? So there's something really important about identifying and working in the space of holding our regret sacredly, not beating ourselves up about it. Because when we regret something, then it's something that we say, I should have served that moment better. And what is the gift that the present says? I've got some great news for you. I've got some great, that's why we call it that's why it's called the present. Because if you've got some regret, the present always says, I've got some really, really, really great news for you. Now you get to do it. Like this is the space where you can do something differently. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here to receive it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can do so on my site. Please remember, if you would like to book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates before we move into personal readings right now. First and foremost, we've got tarot class tomorrow. I hope that you'll join us there. We are going to be focusing our studies on the Hanged Man. If you would like to become a part of those classes, all you need to do is head over to my Substack and become a paid subscriber. Your paid subscription to my Substack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. Also, as a paid subscriber, you will also have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library. Now, it's not necessary to catch up. I'll be doing my best to give you guys an update on everything we've studied thus far, but the material is there for you to receive as you're ready to receive it. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we're learning or have studied thus far. And if you become a founding member, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also have full access to the entirety of the Tarot Church Library. That is access to over 12 hours worth of material in an ever expanding library. You will also have access to a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will meet with you personally and assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us on those classes. And also, even if you don't become a paid subscriber, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events and my online live schedule. I also post Mystic Meditations that gives you recaps on what we've been seeing in the cards in article format. Also, I want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my students that are seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my clients seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I'm also very happy to now offer dream interpretation readings. You can purchase these on an individual level or as a monthly series. Again, I would encourage, if you purchase the series, that you make sure that you start to keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or bi-weekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.